Hello everyone and welcome to History of the Ancient World. Today we're journeying back in time to explore something truly fascinating. What was it actually like to live in an ancient city? We often see grand temples and mighty colosseums in movies, but what about the day-to-day reality for ordinary people? Let's peel back the layers of history and find out. Imagine waking up not to an alarm clock, but to the sounds of a city already bustling with life. In ancient Rome, for instance, the morning air would be filled with the clatter of carts, the calls of street vendors, and the chatter of neighbors. Most Romans lived in apartment buildings called insulae. These were often cramped, noisy, and if you lived on the upper floors, you'd be climbing a lot of stairs. The ground floor, however, was prime real estate, often housing shops and wealthier tenants. There was no running water in these apartments, so a daily trip to the public fountain was essential for fetching water for cooking, cleaning, and drinking. Now let's head over to ancient Athens. Athenian homes were typically built around a central courtyard, which was the heart of the household. This open space provided light and air, and it's where much of daily life happened, from weaving to cooking. Unlike the massive apartment blocks of Rome, Athenian houses were more private, but the streets outside were just as lively. The agora, or marketplace, was the central hub of the city. This wasn't just a place to buy olives and pottery. It was the social, political, and economic center of Athens. You'd see philosophers debating, politicians giving speeches, and citizens catching up on the latest news. It was the internet and the shopping mall, all rolled into one. What did people do for a living? Well, ancient cities were hives of industry. You'd have bakers, butchers, blacksmiths, carpenters, weavers, and potters, each with their own workshop, often right on the street. The noise and smells would have been intense. A blacksmith's hammer ringing, the scent of fresh bread from a bakery, the sharp smell of a tannery. It was a true sensory overload. For many, work started at sunrise and ended at sunset. There wasn't a standard 9 to 5, and the work was often physically demanding. Now, let's talk about something we all love. Food. What was on the menu in an ancient city? The diet was simpler than ours, but still varied. In the Mediterranean, staples included bread, olives, figs, cheese, and vegetables. Meat was a luxury for most, reserved for special occasions or religious festivals. Instead of a big family dinner at home, many city dwellers grabbed a bite from street vendors or at a thermopolium, which was the ancient equivalent of a fast food joint. You could get hot stews, snacks, and wine. It was a convenient way to eat, especially for those living in small apartments with limited cooking facilities. But life wasn't all work and no play. Ancient city dwellers knew how to have a good time. In Rome, the Colosseum offered spectacular and brutal gladiatorial games, while the Circus Maximus hosted thrilling chariot races. These events were massive public spectacles, often free to the public and sponsored by emperors or wealthy citizens to gain popularity. The Romans also loved their public baths. These weren't just for getting clean, they were social centers. You could exercise, get a massage, read in the library, and of course catch up on all the local gossip. It was the ultimate relaxation spot. In Athens, entertainment was a bit more highbrow. The theater was a huge part of Athenian culture. Citizens would gather to watch plays by great dramatists like Sophocles and Aristophanes. These weren't just entertainment, they were important civic and religious events that explored complex themes about morality, society, and the gods. Imagine sitting in an open-air amphitheater, watching a powerful drama unfold with thousands of your fellow citizens. It must have been an incredible experience. However, we can't ignore the challenges. Ancient cities were crowded, and sanitation was a major problem. There were no modern sewage systems. People would throw their waste out into the streets, which were often dirty and smelly. This, of course, led to the rapid spread of diseases. Life expectancy was much lower than it is today, and child mortality was tragically high. Fire was another constant danger, especially in cities with tightly packed wooden buildings like Rome. A small kitchen fire could quickly turn into a devastating inferno that destroyed entire neighborhoods. And what about law and order? Most cities had some form of city guard or watchman, but they were nothing like a modern police force. Dark, unlit streets at night could be dangerous, and crime was a real concern. Justice could be swift and harsh. If you were wealthy, you had a better chance of a fair trial, but for the poor, justice was often out of reach. So, as we can see, life in an ancient city was a mix of incredible innovation and immense hardship. It was a world of vibrant communities, amazing public entertainment, and bustling economies. But it was also a world of noise, dirt, disease, and danger. It was a far cry from the sanitized, marble-white cities we sometimes imagine. It was a living, breathing, and often messy place full of real people with hopes, fears, and dreams not so different from our own. Understanding their daily lives helps us appreciate not only the magnificent monuments they left behind, but also the resilience and ingenuity of the people who called these ancient metropolises home. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the daily life of ancient cities. If you found this interesting, please give this video a like and subscribe to History of the Ancient World for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments which ancient city you'd most like to visit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.